Hello, 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 and welcome back to yet another NFL video. Today, man, we got the week three NFL predictions, and of course, talking about what has happened in week two so far. And man, week two, very eventful. A lot of teams, a lot was revealed about a lot of teams. A few teams' season just ended. Couple coaches on the hot seat already. Let's get into it, man. Some shocking wins and losses. By the way, let me go ahead and start off by saying this while we go over here. Uh, present what I got here. So far in week one, I in week one I went 9-8 with the predictions. I got nine predictions right, eight wrong. Same for week two, nine predictions right, eight wrong. Now, listen, I'm not trying to say that's good or whatever. You can call me coin flip rod, whatever you want. I guarantee you, there's some people that get paid to do this and do this for a living that are not 50% on both week or plus 50% on both weeks so far. So I just wanted to say that. And before we get started, finally, thank you for watching. All right. So Thursday night football tonight, we have the Patriots going on the road to play the Jets. Obviously, the Patriots had that massive upset in week one on the road against the Bengals, but in week two, when my Seahawks came to town, they did not look that good. Well, I should say this. They played better than I thought they would against the Seahawks. Defensively, I thought they did a good job. Offensively, they weren't great. They put up 20 points in four quarters plus overtime. But I think that's the thing, right? We know this team is not very talented, especially offensively, but I still think they showed up and didn't do bad. I think the Patriots are a team who actually are more well, who like, even though Gerard Mayo is the first year head coach, he appears to be getting the very most out of this roster, especially with Jacoby Brissett. I could see the Patriots being a team who somehow manages to win five or six games, even though on paper they're probably the second least talented roster in football. And that's just really an attribute to coaching. So I think any team that plays the Patriots that is not on their A game or looks really sloppy, you could absolutely lose to them. With that being said, the Jets bounced back last week at home against the Titans. Their defense has showed up. And it looks, I mean, the Jets are, there are a lot of teams like this who their defense is playing really good, but their offense kind of is just not up to speed yet. Obviously, I think the Jets offense looked better against the Titans than they did against the 49ers, but they're still waiting to have that game where they put everything together. I think this could be that game for them at home against a not so good team. I'm going to have the Jets winning this game 23-14. Now, I will say this. I've had the Patriots lose every single game so far, my predictions, by like at least 9 points. So, and they've proved me wrong every time. So, will this finally be the game that they lose by at least 9 points? We'll see. But the Jets are heavy favorites at home. Next up, we have the Giants, the shitty, terrible poo poo Giants, traveling on the road to play the not so much, but not very much better Browns. Browns are heavy favorites here, and they should be. Listen, the Giants. Where do I start here? Last week's game was just they were the first team in NFL history to score at least three touchdowns and not give up a touchdown and lose the game. You might be thinking to yourself, how the fuck is that even possible? Well, they were playing the Commanders and they gave up six field goals. And they themselves, even though they scored two touchdowns, I think, their kicker was hurt and they had to send a punter out there and who could not kick the football. Why, as an NFL billion-dollar franchise, do you only have one player on the team that's capable of making an extra point? Don't ask me. I don't know. Some people get paid millions to think of this. I don't. The Giants are fucking stupid, ridiculous, and they lost the game because they didn't have a backup kicker. And yeah, so the Browns won, or not the Browns, the Commanders won, and the Giants lost yet again in humiliating fashion. With that being said, they looked better, I guess, than they did against the Vikings. Malik Neighbors had a really good game. No other receiver has got involved. I don't know where Jalen Hyatt is. He's a promising young player that the Giants just do not use because they can't throw the ball deep. Their offensive line sucks. The run game sucks. Defense, I guess, the defense didn't give up a touchdown, so you got to give them credit there. But listen, man, the Browns did bounce back. The defense looked really good against the Jaguars. Offensively, I mean, it is what it is. I don't as long as Deshaun Watson's the quarterback, I don't know if the Browns offense will be good. He's just fallen off so fucking much. But I mean, the Browns defense against the Giants offense, I think is going to lead to some very, very bad things for Daniel Jones. So that's really what I'm basing this entire prediction off of. Low scoring game for sure. I got the Browns winning 24-10 at home. I really just think the Giants are probably a two or maybe a three win team. They have to draft quarterback in the top three. They just have to. And yeah, man, they are going to suck. And Brian Dable is probably going to get fired. Next up, by the way, this is a must-win game for the Browns. You have to beat the Giants at home if you have any shot in hell of making the playoff. You have to win this game if you're the Browns. Next up, we got the Packers traveling on the road to play the winless Titans. So far, the Titans have not won a game, even though they've been in two incredibly close games. Man, Will Levis. Listen, I'm not a Will Levis hater. I hated on him coming into the league, like during the draft process. But here's the thing, right? My only problem with Will Levis was that he was not a first round caliber talent. And that was my problem. I said that throughout the process. I said, Will Levis is not a first round talent. I don't know where all this hype is coming from. He will not go in the top 5. He will not go in the top 10. He's not a first round caliber player. And it turns out I was right. He was not drafted in the first round. All that hype was bullshit. I saw right through that. And that was it. I didn't have a problem with Will Levis anymore. I thought he was being overrated. And he didn't deserve to go in the first round. And he didn't. So that's it. My beef is with him is done. He had a really good game last year against the Falcons. That's it. People try and use that game to hype up the rest of his rookie season. Like, hold on now. The rest of his rookie season was not good. With that being said, he had a terrible offensive line and bad receivers. Okay, so I was willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. The Titans roster got much better. Titans had one of the best off seasons in the league. But you could make an argument the reason that they've lost both games is Will Levis. That's at least what the fans think. A lot of fans have already turned on Will Levis, and I can see why. And now the storyline: Malik Willis travels back to Tennessee to play the man who they drafted to replace him. That is very, very interesting right there. Listen, the Packers, they didn't look amazing last week at home against the Colts, but I thought they were going to lose that game. Malik Willis had the best game of his career. That is not debatable. The Packers were able to run the ball very well. Their offensive line played well. Defensively, they shut down the Colts. I mean, listen, I think the fact of the matter is if the Packers played as well as they did last week or better, then they will beat the Titans here. But I don't know how likely they are to repeat that level of success with a brand new quarterback. Will Malik Willis have a career game? I would listen. I would love to see the Packers and Malik Willis come in and win this game, but I just don't think it's realistic. I think the Titans are a better team, at least now without Jordan Love. I think at being at home, they have to get the job done here. First home game, I believe. So I do think the Titans are going to win. But if they lose, this is a must-win game for the Titans. If the Titans lose this game, some bad things could happen in Tennessee. Next up, Bears travel on the road to play the Colts. Winless Colts. You know, you definitely would say that the Colts have looked much better so far than the Bears, but they're 0-2 and the Bears are 1-1. Man, the Bears offensive line has just not been able to protect Caleb so far, which is, and this is the thing about Caleb, right? One of the things was that he runs into too much pressure, or he creates too many problems with himself by not keeping the play simple, by not just staying in the pocket and finding the check down, right? With that being said, though, some of this pressure is just too much. Like there's nothing he can do about some of these sacks right now, which is crazy because at least on paper you would think that this would be the best Bears offensive line in the last like 4 or 5 years, but I guess not. I guess they still just suck. Um, so it's like it doesn't even matter how good the receivers are if he doesn't have any time to throw the football. The defense, I mean, they didn't look great last week, but I mean, what are you gonna do when your offense is doing literally nothing? The Colts at home, I just think the Colts, man, I think the Colts have to win this game, to be honest with you. Um, I really don't have a problem with Anthony Richardson so far. I know his completion percentage is like at the bottom, but you guys got to remember, this is like his 6th game. He's played like maybe 5 or 6 games so far in the NFL. Like this guy is a brand new player and he's incredibly young. He was the youngest player in like the draft yet last year, I think. Nobody is saying Anthony Richardson is under any sort of pressure right now. Okay. And by the way, it's not like the Colts did the most last offseason to try and make the team better. The Colts did nothing in the offseason. They added nobody through free agency. They drafted a couple young players, but like the Colts even are not moving the needle towards win now. Okay. They know it's still a process. So Anthony Richardson has this entire year to learn and get better, but I do think he's going to pick up a win here at home against the Bears. I just don't trust the Bears offensive line. I think the Colts defense is solid, not great, but I do think they're going to get a lot of pressure on Caleb. It'll be a pretty good game, to be honest with you. I'll probably watch this game if it's on TV. But yeah, man, I just Caleb has to prove to me, and the Bears offensive line has to prove to me that they're capable of pushing the ball downfield and getting the ball in the hands of those talented receivers. Until they do that, I'm going to pick against them. So I got the Colts winning at home, getting their first win of the season. Next up, undefeated matchup. This lets you know how good Vegas thinks the Texans are. Going on the road to an undefeated team, the Texans are still favorites, and that's because they've looked really good so far. Have wins over the Colts and the Bears. The offense has really been clicking. I thought the defense played really well last week. And the Vikings, on the other hand, upsetting the Niners in convincing fashion. To this, they didn't need a whole lot of bullshit to win that game. They just outplayed the Niners. They got after Brock Purdy. The defense was lights out. I have to give the Vikings an A+ so far on this season, and I don't say that lightly. Sam Darnold been balling out, did not make like hardly any mistakes against the 49ers defense. I think Fred Warner had like an amazing pick, but outside of that, man, it's like Sam Darnold's played great. The run game, I like it. The receiver, obviously Justin Jefferson's been balling out. So I love this game. I love this matchup, but I think the score line or the Vegas odds are correct. I do think the Texans are going to get the job done. The Vikings have looked great so far, but the Texans, believe it or not, the Texans are the best team they've played so far. And I think the Texans offense is going to be much harder to stop than the 49ers offense. So a good game. I'll be watching every second if it's on TV. But I do have the Texans picking this game up and improving to 3-0 while the Vikings drop 2-1. Next up, Eagles at Saints. Man, how the hell did the Eagles lose that game? How the fuck did the Eagles manage to lose that game to the Falcons? It was right there. It literally was in their chest, in their hands of Saquon Barkley. He dropped the ball and they lose the game. Okay, anyways, I still think the Eagles have looked really good so far, especially defensively. Um, well, not against the Packers, if you will, but against the Falcons, they look really good defensively until the very end. The Saints, though, the Saints are probably playing the best of any team in the entire league, offensively, defensively. I mean, their offense. I think they scored a touchdown on their first 6 possessions last week, and I think they've scored on every drive so far this season. That will not be the case against the Eagles, I can guarantee you. But man, the Saints are fucking balling out right now. With that being said, I have to give the Eagles the win here. The Eagles are my Super Bowl pick. Okay, I have to stick with them, even though I understand that the Saints are playing incredibly well. I think the Eagles are the best team they've played so far. I think the Eagles defense will give them some troubles. And 24 points, that's not bad, but it's obviously not what they've been doing. Um, yeah, man, I think it'll be a great game, really. But I just I think the Eagles are the better team. And even though they're on the road, the Saints at home, the odds certainly are in their favor. And I wouldn't be mad at anybody picking the Saints here. I just trust the Eagles more. To be honest with you, the Saints, they were not good last year. I know 2 games is not nothing, but it's not a big enough sample size for me to just think that they're going to beat teams who are better than them. So I'm going to roll with the Eagles here. But if the Saints win, I'll start glazing the Saints a little bit harder. Pause. Next up, man, what a good game this is. Undefeated Chargers heading to Pittsburgh. Jim Harbaugh has not lost a game in a very long time, but the Steelers here are feeling really good about themselves. I don't know who the quarterback's going to be. Is Russ healthy now? I'm sure he is. But Fields, he's led them to 2-0, and he's not played bad. You cannot hate on the way Justin Fields has played, especially with the amount of penalties that Pittsburgh had last week. You cannot blame their lack of offense last week on Justin Fields. It was the penalties holding them back. So I don't know, man. I don't know about this game. I certainly think the Steelers should be favorites, but I'm actually going to go with the Chargers here on the road. Low scoring game. I can almost guarantee you this will be a low scoring game. Both defenses have looked great so far. The real thing about I'll tell you what the thing about this game. This will be the game between both of these teams' strengths. The Steelers' defensive line and primarily their edge rushers, TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith, against the Chargers' offensive tackles, Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt. Both of the Chargers tackles have played amazing so far. Obviously, TJ Watt has been lights out. That will be what decides this game. Can the Steelers get after Justin Herbert and produce turnovers or just drive killing sacks? That will be the key on whether or not the Steelers win this game. But I don't think it's going to happen. I think the Chargers are going to walk out of Pittsburgh undefeated. Next up, we have the Broncos on the road against the Buccaneers. You know what's funny? I remember before the season, some Broncos fans were talking about like, because there was like, I forgot what it was, but it was some post talking about the Broncos going to draft in like the top 3 in a mock draft, right? Which means they would suck next year or this year, I should say. And the Broncos fans in the comments were like, oh, casual. The Broncos are not going to be one of the 3 worst teams in the league. This guy does not know how talented our roster is. It had like hundreds and hundreds of likes. I'm like, brother, the Broncos are not that good. Even if Bo Nix plays well, the Broncos aren't like the Broncos' ceiling this year is 6 wins, and that's if everything goes right. Everything is not going right so far. It's looking like a 3 or 4 win season for the Broncos, and I don't know why that's a shocker to some people. The defense is not good. The offense sucks. So I mean, I don't know, and I think they're going to get absolutely crushed by the Buccaneers in Tampa. Buccaneers are heavy favorites this week, and they should be. They're going to win this game. I have them winning in blowout fashion. Listen, the Broncos have not figured out how to push the ball downfield yet. I don't know if it's all on Bo Nix. They don't have good receivers. Can we start there? Name a receiver on the Broncos besides Cortland Sutton and Marvin Mims. I can't. Besides Troy Franklin, obviously. So, and they're not using him, so it doesn't even matter. Like the Broncos' offense has not been good so far. Sean Payton, by the way, has done absolutely nothing in terms of play calling the last 2 years. He has just not been impressive at anything. I don't know why people are still acting like Sean Payton deserves all this praise. He's been absolutely terrible with the Broncos. And the Buccaneers, on the other hand, have looked flat out amazing. I have to give them an A plus, to be honest with you. I know the game against the Lions was not clean at all, but you went on the road to, in my opinion, one of, if not the best teams in the NFC and walked out of there with a win. Aiden Hutchinson got like 5 sacks. This would be the only thing. The only way I see the Broncos winning this game is if Zach Allen, their edge rusher, who like is top 5 in the league in pressures, if he just wreaks havoc off the edge and makes Baker Mayfield's life hell, or make Baker Mayfield's life hell. If he's able to do that, that's the only way I can see the Broncos winning this game. But unless that happens and he has like a career game, I think the Buccaneers are going to win this game comfortably at home and improve to 3-0. Next up, Panthers traveling on the road to the Raiders. Yeah, I don't think I have to. Yeah, the Raiders are going to win this game. The Panthers just benched Bryce Young. I could make a whole video talking about this, and I see both sides, right? This is not a cut and dry thing here. The Panthers know that they suck, and I respect that. They know that Bryce has a 0% chance of success right now with this team, even though they made improvements to the receiving core, to the offensive line. You would assume that their play calling got better with a new young head coach, but that's just not the case. Bryce has been terrible, and I will say this: I loved Bryce Young as a prospect coming out of college. I still think he has potential, but he will not succeed at this time with the Panthers. I honestly, I think I support the move to bench him right now. That's not saying he's done for the rest of the year. By the way, people act like, oh, they gave up on Bryce. He's done. No, he could be back in a month from now. But clearly, he needs time to really regroup and focus and just because it's not working. Nobody can argue. They're the worst offense in football. Nobody can argue that it's working. Okay, so if it's not working, you gotta switch something up. They're gonna switch up the quarterback play. Let Bryce take a step back, reevaluate, and listen. Has it killed his confidence? It looks like it. His what's the word? His body language and just the clips I've been seeing of him, he looks completely defeated, which sucks to see, bro, because it's not his fault. The Panthers are fucking terrible. But man, I don't know. Honestly, I don't think it's going to work with Bryce Young in Carolina. I think it would be so good for both parties to just trade him this offseason and try and just draft another quarterback, I guess, who can come in with some more confidence, maybe. But man, they suck, bro. I'm saying all this to say they're probably going to lose 14 or 15 games this year. The Raiders, on the other hand, they had a massive upset last week in Baltimore. Minshew played very well. The defense was locked down, and I think they're going to handle the Panthers. Even though Andy Dalton, I assure you, the offense will look better with Andy Dalton back there than with Bryce Young. But man, yeah, the Raiders are still going to get the job done here, especially at home. I got them winning comfortably. Next up, we have the Dolphins traveling on the road to Seattle. Obviously, as we all know, last week Tua got concussed again. Should be contemplating retirement. He said he's not, but yeah, the Dolphins season's over. They are not going to have Tua for at least the next 5 or 6 games, probably 7 or 8, to be honest with you. Um, I mean, yeah, without Tua, even if you have a good backup, which they don't right now, it's Skylar Thompson. It's just I don't think you're going to be winning many games. And thankfully for my Seahawks, they are coming up on the road to Seattle to give us a free win. We should be more than 4-point favorites. Listen, has Skylar Thompson ever won a game? I think I've seen him play like 2 or 3 times, and he sucks every single time. No disrespect, but he just fucking sucks. So I have the Seahawks winning this game very comfortably. Um, the Seahawks defense has played very well, man. We shut down the Broncos, And the Patriots at home, we gave up 20 points in 5 quarters pretty much. So, I mean, yeah, I'm very happy with how the Seahawks defense is played. The only thing missing right now is just a consistent offensive performance. Now, in the second half against the Broncos, we looked really good. In the first half against the Patriots, we looked really good. We have yet to put together a full length performance. Geno played great. He played amazing last week in New England, but the run game was nowhere to be found. I attribute that to K9 being gone. Hopefully he's back this week, and the offensive line not playing good so far. The offensive line has been the glaring weakness on this team, but we're 2-0, and I think we're going to improve to 3-0. I think we're going to have our best overall showing at home against the Dolphins. I think a few people out there are going to take us very seriously, even though I think we have played a cupcake schedule. I will say that the Broncos, Patriots, and Dolphins without Tua is the easiest schedule so far in the league. So I would not hype us up if we go 3-0 to start the season, but I will be impressed nonetheless. Next up, Ravens travel to Dallas, where they just got embarrassed. Both of these teams, but Dallas especially got embarrassed last week at home. Ravens are favorites. I can see why. I just I think the Ravens will have a greater sense of urgency. I think they can kind of feel that their season may be slipping away, especially if they lose this game. Whereas the Cowboys, I honestly, the Cowboys do nothing that impresses me. Honestly, they can't run the ball. I have no faith in Dak Prescott. The defense, as I saw last week, is not imposing their will whatsoever. They only play well against shitty quarterbacks like Deshaun Watson. The Cowboys, I just don't respect or fear the Cowboys whatsoever. I think the Ravens are going to walk in there and move the ball at will against the Cowboys defense. But I think the Cowboys offense, I think they could put together a much better performance than they did last week. I think the Ravens defense is a little susceptible. So I think it'll be a really good game, actually, high scoring, exciting, back and forth. But I do think the Ravens will get the job done, and the Cowboys will suffer back-to-back losses at home, and the Ravens will bounce back finally. Next up, great game, by the way. Divisional matchup. Cowboys or Niners go on the road to the Rams. Both these teams with disappointing starts to the season. Rams got just torn up by Kyler Murray last week in Arizona. So many injuries, both of their top receivers out. It looks like they're dead on arrival, honestly. The Rams do. It looks like they should even explore trading Matt Stafford. I mean, their season, they went from being like a 10-win team in preseason, like a really good team, as at least that's what I thought they were, to just getting torn apart by injuries and their season. I mean, it looks like the 2022 season for the Rams here. And the Niners, same thing. So many injuries, no McCaffrey, no Debo, and they're playing a good defense. So the Rams defense, if they show up heavy this week, they could make Brock Purdy's life hell and they could walk out of here with a win. But I think the Niners are going to get the job done. They're heavy favorites. They should not be 7-point favorites, but I see why. I do not think the Rams offense is going to be able to move the ball. They got to figure out how to run the football, by the way. They got Blake Corum and Kyren Williams. They got to figure out how to lean on this run game because it's been nothing so far. And Matt Stafford has not looked good, but he's not supposed to look good. He's missing his top 2 receivers. The defense has looked bad, but man, I don't know what to tell you, man. I think the Niners are going to get the job done here. I would love if the Rams won. I would absolutely love it if the Rams won and give us a 2-game head start on the Niners. But yeah, I think the Niners, even without their best 2 offensive players, I think they're going to get the job done here against the Rams. Next up, Lions at Cardinals. A really good game. Really good game. I was not expecting the Lions to lose last week. Well, no, actually, I did. I did predict the Buccaneers to win that game, but I think most people kind of were shocked by that. I think they didn't play that well. I think the Lions' offense so far has not impressed many people outside Jameson Williams. I think they need to. I think that's going to be the focus this game is to have their best offensive performance. I think that's what's going to happen. Obviously, the Cardinals last week. So in game 1, right, Marvin Harrison had like 1 catch for 4 yards, right? In the first quarter of game 2, he had 5 catches for 130 yards and 2 touchdowns. So yeah, I don't think anybody's worried about how fucking good Marvin Harrison Jr. is, right? I think we all saw that last week. Kyler had the best first half, at least that I've ever seen from him. He had like 300 yards and 4 touchdowns. He absolutely destroyed the Rams defense. With that being said, the Lions are just on another level. They're just simply better in every category. So I think they're going to blow out the Cardinals, even though the Cardinals are at home. I shouldn't say blow out. I think the Cardinals will move the ball and make it competitive, but I do not think they will be able to slow down the Lions offense. I think the Lions offense will have their best offensive showing of the season and pick up their second win. And I messed this up. It should be Cardinals 1-2, Lions 2-1. Next up, the Chiefs go on the road Sunday Night Football, I think, right? Is it Sunday Night Football? Yes, Sunday Night Football to play the Falcons. Good game. Really good game here. Kansas City obviously should be favorites. They won their game last week. And listen, some people are blaming the refs for last week's game. I don't really see it. The Bengals did some stupid shit. And the Chiefs, listen, it was clear PI. This is the problem. If you're going to complain about the refs, show me calls that were really missed calls or bad calls. It was clear pass interference on the Bengals. How is anybody complaining about that? I don't understand that. And by the way, if I'm not mistaken, no, I'm never. I'm thinking about the wrong thing. But like, it was clear PI, clear PI. I have no complaints about the Chiefs getting that call, but they should have lost that game. They had turned it over multiple times. Patrick Mahomes had a very bad game last week against the Bengals, but they still won. And that's the thing. If the Chiefs can win games when Mahomes doesn't play well, they're just on another level, man. But I do think the Falcons at home with a very impressive late game miracle against the Eagles. I actually have the Falcons winning this game. The Falcons offense has yet to look good at any point this season so far. I think it's going to change. The Chiefs defense is really good, but I just think the Falcons have the recipe to pull off a massive upset here at home, prime time. I think it'll be a great game, but I do think the Falcons are going to find a way to somehow sneak this win out and upset the Chiefs here, which I will be very excited to see. Next up, we have the Jaguars at Bills. It's a doubleheader on Monday Night Football. Jaguars look bad so far. Bills look great so far. With that being said, I really think these teams are about even. The Bills being 5-point favorites is kind of shocking to me. I think the Bills have gotten off to a better start than most people think, maybe. I think they're being kind of overrated just a little bit. Who'd they play last week? I'm trying to think. Damn, this is embarrassing now. Give me a second. I'll pull it out. I'll pull it out. One second. One second. Who the fuck did the Bills play? Dolphins. They killed the Dolphins. Tua got hurt. They killed the Dolphins. Okay, yeah. Now, listen, this is the thing. They were very impressive before Tua got hurt, so you can't say that. They picked Tua off like 3 times, right? Offense was moving the ball. Defense looked great. Okay. Yeah, the Bills have looked very good so far. The Jaguars, on the other hand, 0-2. They were in both these games, but they lost both these games very close. I think this is a must-win game for the Jaguars because if you start off 0-3, even though the Jags have played 3 good teams to start the season, if they start off 0-3, I think a lot of people are just going to completely write them off and give up on them, even though they still have a really good chance. But the Bills, on the other hand, I just think that the Bills, I don't know what it is. I still am not a believer. I'm just not a believer in the Bills yet. I think their offense and their defense is overrated. They are completely based off how Josh Allen plays. And I think this is going to be the game where Josh Allen turns it over multiple times and loses the Bills their first game of the season, in my opinion. I think the Jaguars are just not as bad as their record says they are. I think they might even be better than the Bills on paper. If I really break it down position by position, they have a massive gap at quarterback, but that's about it. So I think Brian Thomas has played very good to start the season so far. So I got the Jaguars winning this one in a big upset too. But I do think the Jaguars are going to pull off the win on the road against Buffalo. And then for the final game of the week, Commanders travel on the road to play Cincinnati. This is a pretty simple one to pick for me. Cincinnati, they got screwed. They got fucked up by the Chiefs. They should have won that game, definitely. They're going to be way more motivated. Their season is on the line. They have to win this game. And they know that. The Commanders, it's a rookie quarterback. They have nothing really to like. They are not going to be nearly as motivated to win this game. They have not looked good so far. The Bengals, I think they're going to win this game. They're going to take the win. I think their defense so far has been impressive. I thought they played well. The defense played well. You cannot blame the defense for that loss to the Chiefs. They did their job and then some. So I think they're going to be able to hold Jayden Daniels to a relatively mediocre performance, while the offense has possibly their best game of the season so far. You would expect them to, the Bengals offense, to show up this game. So that's what I think for this week, man. Yeah, man. That's it for the video, man. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I will see y'all on the next one. Peace.